Since starting up the East versus West format of its All-Star Game, the McDonald's All-American event has collected some of the best high school players from around the country and pitted them against each other in a showcase exhibition match. At the end of each game, only one player can win MVP, and that doesn't always go to the best player in that year's class. I've tried to do the impossible and rank every single McDonald's All-American MVP from 1978 through 2019. I just don't think we've seen enough of the more recent players to really judge, so we'll give them a little more time. Comparing guys who had a great college career and sucked in the pros to players who were average in college and carved a career as a role player is, as you'd expect, going to be very tough, but I'll do my best. Finally, it's worth noting that recruiting was not nearly as sophisticated as it is today, leading to the top of this list being a little bit more filled out with modern players. Or maybe I just have a bias for players I watch live. Let me know in the comments. This is going to be contentious. Number 55, Walker Lambiotte, 1985. Lambiotte won the MVP by scoring 24 points in the All-American game. He'd started his college career at NC State but struggled with the competition. He then transferred to Northwestern where, in 2 years, he'd put up solid scoring numbers as a star of the Big Ten's bottom feeder. Lambiotte went undrafted in 1990 and never played a game at the pro level. Number 54, Aubrey Sherrod, 1981. Sherrod was very tall for his age as a youth. In fact, he was invited to play with his brother's 6th grade team when he was only in 2nd grade due to his size. He dominated the competition in Wichita, Kansas as a high schooler and was ranked alongside Michael Jordan as one of the best players in the country. He'd head to Wichita State for college and was a walking bucket for the team while also earning his place as the school's, at the time, all-time steals leader by the end of his 4 years. He was drafted by the Bulls in 1985, however, he was eventually cut because the team already had MJ. He would play in the CBA and overseas, but was unable to ever get a game in the NBA. Number 53, Cheick Diallo, 2015. Diallo is only 27 years old, so he could definitely rise up the rankings if he's able to impress overseas. The young power forward came to the US from Mali in 2012 to play high school ball. Over his high school career, he would grow into a 5-star prospect and was recruited to play for the Kansas Jayhawks. His early collegiate career was marred by eligibility concerns, but when he did step on the floor, it was clear that he wasn't quite ready, averaging just 3 points and 2.5 boards in 7.5 minutes a night. However, he decided to leave college and head to the 2016 NBA draft. That may have been a mistake for his long-term development, but he was selected with the 33rd pick by the Clippers and then traded to the Pelicans later that night. He impressed in his first summer league and even dropped a double-double during an early December game during his rookie season. In his 3 years in New Orleans, he came off the bench for more than 100 games, but never averaged more than 14 minutes. He was signed by Phoenix for the 2019 season and even started 2 games during his year there. He'd then spend the next few seasons overseas before getting a few games with the Pistons in 2021, and after that, he'd head back overseas. As of 2023, he's playing in Japan alongside another former player, Epei Udo. Number 52, Efrem Winters, 1982. Winters came out of Chicago King as a stud power forward. He dropped 19 points to win MVP in the McDonald's All-American game before going to the University of Illinois. There, he'd play for 4 years and make the All-Big Ten team in 1984 when he led his team to the Elite 8. He left school after his senior season as the all-time leader in rebounds and games played while averaging 11 points a night. He was selected 88th overall in the 86 draft but never played in the NBA. He tried to play overseas but could not find a team and retired to work in construction. 51, Rudy Woods, 1978. As a 6'10" high school sophomore, Woods was dominant in his home state of Texas. He continued to improve his game, winning 3 state titles in a row before dropping 13 points and 16 boards to win MVP in the McDonald's All-American game. He'd go on to play 4 years at Texas A&M where he won SWC Freshman of the Year in '79, but poor academics held back his development at times and his per-game numbers never progressed. He was selected with the 73rd pick by the Mavs in 1982, but would never log an NBA minute, instead playing out a short pro career overseas and in the CBA. Woods passed in 2016. Number 50, Darren Daye, 1979. Daye won MVP behind a 22-point, rebound performance. He headed to UCLA for his college career and ended his time there with a solid senior season where he averaged nearly 16 points a night. He was drafted 57th overall by the Bullets in 1983 and played in the league for 5 years across 3 different teams. He then finished out his career overseas before retiring in '97. His son Austin would later become the 15th pick in the 2009 draft and win a title with the Spurs in 2014. Number 49, Kenny Gregory, 1997. Gregory rode a stellar high school career to a scholarship at Kansas University. While his first season wasn't quite up to his standards, he became a double-digit scorer his sophomore year and increased his production all 4 years with the Jayhawks. Gregory would then show off incredible athleticism at the pre-draft combine, recording the, at the time, highest no-step vertical and highest maximum vertical in the event's history. However, he went undrafted in 2001 and was signed by the Greenville Grove in the D-League. Unfortunately, Gregory was never able to make it to the NBA, but he did have a very successful career overseas, winning a championship in the French and Slovenian leagues while picking up several All-Star awards around the globe. 48, Shaheen Holloway, 1996. Growing up in Queens, the 5'10" point guard was ranked alongside Mike Bibby as the 2 best guards in the '96 class. Holloway decided to head to Seton Hall for his collegiate career despite offers from some of the game's biggest blue bloods. He was an instant source of offense for the Pirates, averaging 17 points and 6 assists as a freshman. He decided to not go pro, and his game saw an immediate dip. Fortunately, by his senior season, Holloway had turned it around and he was named to the All-Big East second team. Unfortunately, he injured his ankle during the first round of the NCAA tournament, which ended his season before Seton Hall could go on a run. Partially due to the injury, he went undrafted in the 2000 draft. In fact, he would never make an NBA roster, but did play around around the world professionally before joining Iona as an assistant coach in 2007. Currently, Holloway works as the head coach at his alma mater, where he's working to continue the program's history of success. 47, Winston Bennett, 1983. Bennett was a star player for his Louisville high school and stayed in-state for college ball at Kentucky. As a freshman, he helped lead the team to the Final Four, where they lose to Georgetown. The next year, his scoring went up, but the team wasn't quite as successful. As a junior, he'd boost his numbers even more and make the All-NCAA regional team and All-SEC team. A serious knee injury forced him to redshirt the next year, but in his senior season, he again earned All-SEC honors and led the team to the Sweet 16. He'd then be drafted 64th overall by the Cavs. He'd play 3 seasons in the NBA as a reserve player before retiring to get into coaching. 46, Rick Brunson, 1991. The elder Brunson destroyed the New York competition on his way to playing college ball for Temple. There, he grew into a solid point guard who could score with ease. However, he went undrafted in 1995. Brunson would play all over the world and was able to latch on to several NBA teams over his 10-year career. However, his most notable career came in coaching, where he was a longtime assistant coach at the NBA level before taking over at Camden High School. There, he coached players like DeJuan Wagner Jr. before joining his son's NBA team, the New York Knicks, in 2022. Without a doubt, his son is the better player, finally making the All-Star team for his first time in 2024. 45, Jonathan Bender, 1999. Bender is a tough player to rank because, unlike many on this list, he doesn't have a college career where he had a chance to dominate lesser competition. That said, the 6'11 small forward was one of the first big men who possessed an outside game, which made him the 5th overall pick in the 1990 draft as a high school senior. A draft day trade sent him to Indiana, and he started well, becoming the first high schooler to score in double figures in his debut. Unfortunately, he was plagued by injuries during his entire career. His 2002 season was his statistical best, as he played 78 games and averaged 7.4 points. However, the injuries quickly returned, and he only played 76 more games for the team over the next 4 years. He would leave the league after the 2006 season and eventually signed with the Knicks in 2009. While he showed improvement, he only played 25 games and elected to retire on his business career despite the Knicks wanting him back. He is currently a private coach in the Houston area. 44, Frank Jackson, 2016. Jackson was widely viewed as a top 10 player in his class during his senior season, averaging nearly 30 points a night in the Utah prep scene. He headed to Duke for college and was a solid player during his lone season there. Sure, he didn't pick up any awards at the end of his only collegiate season, but the 6'3 guard did average 11 points and hit 40% of his three-pointers. He would enter his name in the 2017 draft, where he was picked 31st overall by the Hornets and was immediately traded to the Pelicans. In his rookie season, Jackson got solid minutes off the bench and averaged 8 points a night. However, that PT would drop off in year 2 and he would eventually sign with the Pistons. There, he had his best season so far, averaging nearly 11 points off the bench in 2022. After the season, Jackson was allowed to walk, and he signed with the Jazz, where he appeared in 1 game and played for the team's G League affiliate. As of 2024, Jackson is playing overseas, most recently for ASVEL in the French League. 43, Nassir Little, 2018. Little was ranked as the 2nd best player in his class behind RJ Barrett. He went to North Carolina to play college ball and was solid for the Tar Heels, but never cracked the starting lineup. Little decided to jump to the pros and was selected 24th overall by the Trailblazers in 2019. In his 4 years with the team, Little showed promise at times, but nagging injuries hurt his development. Then in 2023, he was involved in the Damian Lillard trade and was sent to the Suns as a result. Playing behind stars Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, Little has played limited minutes. That said, he's only 24, so he could rise up this list in the future. 42, Josh McRoberts, 2005. McRoberts was widely considered the best power forward prospect in his class and may have been drafted in 2005 had he skipped college. Instead, he went to Duke as one of the, at the time, highest ranked recruits in the program's history. He was a solid player during his freshman season, making the 3rd-team freshman All-American list. Many thought he could be a lottery pick, but he decided to go back to school. After a back surgery, he had a solid season, but didn't really take that next step. He'd entered the 2007 draft and was selected 37th overall by the Trailblazers. McRoberts was able to carve out a 10-year career playing for 7 different franchises, but was never able to average more than 10 points a night, partially due to consistent injury issues. You could probably rank him a bit higher based on his career longevity, but I'm giving players who did more damage in college a slight bump over McRoberts. 41, Chase Budinger, 2006. Given his 6'7 frame, it might not surprise you to learn that Chase Budinger was a standout basketball and volleyball player in California. In fact, he led his volleyball team to 3 straight championships and was voted as the National Player of the Year during his senior season. However, he was considered the 4th best basketball player in his class, so he decided to head to Arizona and focus on basketball. During his freshman year, he dropped nearly 16 points a night, starting every game for the Wildcats. Over 2 more seasons, his numbers would continue to creep up, and he decided to head to the draft in 2009. Budinger was selected 44th overall by the Pistons, but was immediately traded to the Rockets. While he only started 4 games during his rookie season, he did contribute solid numbers off the bench. Unfortunately, it never got much better for Budinger over his 8-year career, as he retired with 7.9 points per game for his career. After retiring, Budinger switched to playing pro volleyball with the AVP. He won Rookie of the Year in his first season and won his first AVP title in 2019. Budinger continues to compete on the tour as of 2023. 40, Khalid Reeves, 1990. Reeves was a force in Queens, New York, but told his coach he wanted to play somewhere warm for college. He'd end up at Arizona, where he became one of the program's most prolific scorers. Playing for Lute Olson, Reeves would help Damon Stoudemire and the rest of the Wildcats to the 94 Final Four that they lose to Arkansas. He then entered that year's draft, where the Heat selected him 12th overall. Reeves would play in the NBA for 6 years, bopping around to 6 different teams, and spent time playing overseas once his NBA prospects dried up. He'd then go to coach at Christ the King for several years, though he seemingly left that job in recent years. Number 39, Othella Harrington, 1992. too. Harrington was up there with Jason Kidd as the best prep player in the country during 1992. He'd ride that domination to a scholarship at Georgetown in his quest to become the next great big man under John Thompson. He won Big East Freshman of the Year in his first season behind 17 points and 9 boards a night. Unfortunately, his numbers would drop in each of the next 3 years before he graduated. Harrington was drafted 30th overall in 1996 by the Rockets. Behind Hakeem Olajuwon and Charles Barkley, he didn't get a ton of playing time, but in 1989 he was traded to Vancouver. In his first season there, he'd have a career year but wasn't able to grow beyond that due to injuries. He'd bounce around for several more years before retiring in 2006. 38, Russell Cross, 1980. Cross grew up in Chicago and won a state title at Manly. He'd take his talents to Purdue, where he set a freshman scoring record in his first season. Cross would continue to improve and was named first team All Big Ten during his junior year. That impressive collegiate success led to him being the 6th pick in the 1983 draft. He'd play one season with the Golden State Warriors before flaming out of the league. He'd spend 6 more years playing overseas before retiring. 37, Jacque Vaughn, 1993. Vaughn starred on the California high school circuit, quickly becoming one of the best recruits in the country. He'd elect to head to Kansas for college ball to play for legendary coach Roy Williams alongside Scott Pollard. Interestingly, Vaughn is at least partially responsible for opening up a pipeline from KU to Cali, which would eventually lead to players like Paul Pierce making the trip to the Midwest. Vaughn was an effective scorer in college, but was mostly known for his distribution and hard-nosed defense. He'd win Big 8 Player of the Year in 96 and was a 2-time All-American. That led to him being drafted 27th overall by the Utah Jazz in 97. For most of his pro career, he came off the bench, but he was able to carve out a 12-year career as a solid role player, even winning a title with the San Antonio Spurs in 2007. 36, Adrian Branch, 1981. Branch came out of Washington, D.C. as a star swingman. He'd play 4 years for the Maryland Terrapins and finish his career as the second all-time leading scorer. During those 4 seasons, he'd twice make the All-ACC team while averaging north of 18 points a game. The Bulls drafted him in the second round of the 1985 draft, but he never played for the team. After a year in a lower pro league, he'd play a reserve role on the 1987 championship-winning Lakers squad. Over the course of several years, he'd play for 4 more teams, though the bulk of his career was spent overseas. 35, James Michael McAdoo, 2011. McAdoo earned back-to-back Gatorade Player of the Year honors in Virginia before heading to UNC for college. McAdoo spent 3 seasons at UNC, earning second-team All-ACC twice. He would then enter the 2014 draft but went undrafted. Without an outside shot, he was viewed as a tweener with limited upside in the modern NBA, but he would catch on with the Warriors. While he didn't get a ton of playing time, he did win 2 titles with the team and picked up several awards in the D-League while assigned there during his Golden State run. In 2017, he signed a 2-way contract with the 76ers but was waived soon after. McAdoo would then spend several years overseas, winning the Serbian Cup in 2020. Nowadays, McAdoo plays in the Japanese League. 34, Felipe Lopez, 1994. Lopez was born in the Dominican Republic but came to the States when he was 14. He would make his name in the New York City high school circuit, where the 6'5" guard made waves before heading to St. John's. From the jump, Lopez was a scoring machine, never averaging under 15 points a game during his 4 years at the school. Lopez was named to the All-Big East third team twice and first team once before heading to the NBA in 1998. He was drafted by the Vancouver Grizzlies with the 24th pick. Unfortunately, he was only able to hang around the league for 4 years while playing for 3 teams. After the 2002 season, Lopez would play around the world until 2011 when he'd finally retire. While he never quite lived up to his early promise, his work as an ambassador for the game in the Dominican Republic shouldn't be ignored. 33, Josh Jackson, 2016. Jackson was a stud player out in California, averaging 27 points and 13 boards a game during his senior season. The 6'8" swingman was given a 102 rating by 24/7 Sports, making him the highest rated recruit in the website's history. Jackson would head to Kansas for his collegiate career. With the Jayhawks, he won Big 12 Freshman of the Year and was named a second-team All-American. After that success, he'd head to the 2017 NBA draft, where he was selected with the 4th overall pick by the Phoenix Suns. While he was only able to start 35 games as a rookie, he dropped 13 points a night and make all-rookie second team. His second season with the team was mostly more of the same, but his scoring fell slightly. Jackson was then traded to the Grizzlies. He would dominate for the team's G League affiliate, but only played 22 games for Memphis. Jackson then signed with his hometown Pistons and averaged a career high in points in 2021. The next year, he was traded to the Kings during a mid-season deal, but continued to struggle to find consistent minutes. However, due to recent allegations, his future is unknown. Number 32, Shabazz Muhammad, 2012. Muhammad's dad was a 6'5", 4-year starter at USC, and his mom played point guard and ran track at Long Beach State. His older sister is a pro tennis player. What I'm saying is that it's not a big surprise that Shabazz blew up on the national scene at Bishop Gorman High School. Muhammad was so good that Greg Anthony called him a, quote, once-in-a-generation talent. Muhammad would take his talents to UCLA for college, though he had to sit the first few games due to alleged amateurism violations. Eventually, he'd be cleared to play and was good enough to win Pac-12 Co-Freshman of the Year and make the second-team All-American roster, but wasn't nearly as electrifying as many assumed he'd be at that level. Muhammad decided to forego the rest of his collegiate career and entered the 2013 draft. After being projected as a top 3 pick in high school, Muhammad fell to the back of the lottery. He was drafted 14th overall by the Jazz and was traded to the Timberwolves. Out of the gate, Muhammad had off-the-court issues, getting sent home for rules violations in the preseason. He'd spent most of his rookie season in the D-League, but showed a few flashes of NBA production in his limited chances. Unfortunately, an injury had forced him to shut down his season early. Muhammad came back the next year and played well, averaging over 13 points while looking noticeably slimmer, but was injured again. He played 3 more seasons in Minnesota, but couldn't crack the starting lineup. He was then traded to the Bucks, where he played 11 games before being waived. Muhammad has since spent several years playing pro ball all over the world. Last year, it was revealed that Muhammad and may have been a year older than previously expected, allowing him to play against younger players in high school to make himself look better, though that's been disputed by his father. Number 31, Dwayne Pearl Washington, 1983. Washington was the number 1 player in the United States during his senior year of high school and potentially an even bigger name on the Brooklyn playgrounds. He'd take his game to Syracuse University, where he was a 3-time All-Big East player and 2-time All-American. Jazz legend John Stockton would recall that Pearl was the toughest player to guard at the 1984 Olympic Trials training camp. In '86, he was drafted 13th overall by the Nets, where he would play 2 seasons and average 9 points a night. He was then selected by the Heat in the '88 expansion draft, but only played 54 games before being released. Washington would bop around to several CBA teams before retiring in '91. He passed away in 2016. Number 30, Mark Macon, 1987. After a standout prep career, Macon went to Temple and played alongside Aaron McKee and Eddie Jones. He made the All-Atlantic 10 first team all 4 years and was named the league's player of the year in '88. He was drafted by the Nuggets with the 8th pick in the '91 draft and played for 6 years in the NBA before spending several more years in the CBA and overseas. After retiring, Macon would take up coaching, where he was recently working as McKee's assistant coach at Temple. 29, Justin Jackson, 2014. Jackson is a bit of an interesting case because he played for the Homeschool Christian Youth Association during high school. He averaged 39 points and 9 boards as a senior, generating hype due to his off-the-charts athleticism. Johnson would eventually sign with North Carolina and spend 3 years with the Tar Heels. Along the way, he'd win 2017 ACC Player of the Year, make first-team All-American once, and win the 2017 National Championship. After that season, Jackson would declare for the NBA. He was selected 15th overall by the Trailblazers in the 2017 draft, but was immediately traded to the Kings. He played for Sacramento for about a year and a half before he was traded to Dallas. After a similar time frame there, he was traded to the Thunder. He was then waived and picked up by the Bucks in 2021, winning a championship despite only appearing in 1 game. He's since done stints in Boston and Phoenix, but has never been able to get consistent minutes in the NBA. Jackson continues to hang around the G League, even making the All-G League 3rd team in 2022, but has yet to break out in the way some thought he would after high school. 28, Bobby Hurley, 1989. Hurley is a tough player to rank because his college career is up there with the best of them, but injuries as a pro kept him from having a chance to prove himself. He led the Duke Blue Devils to back-to-back national titles in '91 and '92. Then he was named first-team All-American in '93 after putting up 17 points and 8 assists a night. He was then selected with the 7th pick by the Kings in the '93 draft, but was involved in a car accident during his rookie season where he suffered life-threatening injuries. Hurley would come back to play 4 more years in the NBA, but was never the same player. After retiring, he jumped into coaching and has led his Arizona State Sun Devils to 3 NCAA tournament appearances over the last 9 years while coaching players like Josh Christopher and Lou Dort to the NBA. 27, Jared Sullinger, 2010. Sully dropped nearly 25 points and 12 boards as a senior in Ohio, leading his high school team to the number 1 ranking in the country and becoming a top 5 recruit. He would stay in-state and head to Ohio State, where he was a walking double-double from the jump. Sullinger played 2 seasons in college and was a first-team All-American each year. He then headed to the NBA, where he was drafted with the 21st pick in the 2012 draft by the Celtics. His fall out of the lottery was because of lingering back issues that came up during the draft process. Sully didn't play much during his rookie season, but grew into a decent scorer by year 2. However, it soon became clear that his game wasn't a great fit for where the NBA was going, and Boston let him sign a contract with the Raptors in 2016 instead of resigning him. He'd play 11 games there due to injuries and was traded to the Suns before being waived. He spent the 2017 season playing in the Chinese Basketball Association, where he quickly became a star, leading the league in rebounds. Sully would also win the 2021 Korean League Playoffs MVP and is currently back in the CBA. 26, Ronald Curry, 1998. Curry is the hardest player to judge on this list because he decided to leave basketball behind and head to North Carolina to play football. That said, his ability in both sports is hard to deny. He led his high school to 3 consecutive titles in football and 1 in basketball. In fact, many scouts actually ranked him ahead of Michael Vick, as the two played against each other growing up in Virginia. At UNC, Curry was a relatively average quarterback, never completely living up to his hype as a passer. However, he was named MVP of 2 different bowl games for the Tar Heels, and it's important to note that several coaching changes marred his time on the team. He also joined Julius Peppers to play for UNC's basketball team during the offseason, and eventually Curry was drafted in the 7th round of the 2002 NFL Draft. He would switch to wide receiver and eventually became a solid option for the Raiders, posting 3 different seasons where he caught 50 balls or more. Since retiring in 2009, Curry is focused on coaching and currently serves as an assistant coach with the New Orleans Saints. 25, J.R. Reed, 1986. In high school, Reed was recruited to play football for Virginia Tech, but elected to stick with basketball and went to North Carolina. There, he was named ACC Rookie of the Year during his first season and was a consensus first-team All-American during his sophomore year. He played 1 more year in college before being drafted 5th overall by the Hornets in 1989. Reed carved out a solid, if somewhat unremarkable, career, playing for 6 different NBA teams and winning a French League championship in '97. His best season was likely his rookie year, where he started all 82 games and averaged 11 points and 8 boards, but he was never able to take that next step. 24, John Williams, 1984. Hot Plate Williams grew up in Los Angeles, California, but went to LSU for his college career. After a solid SEC career, he was selected 12th overall by the Washington Bullets in the '86 draft. Due to consistent weight issues, Williams would never really become much more than a role player, despite at times showing he could score as much as 18 points a night. In fact, he was suspended for the entire 91-92 season because he was overweight. That said, he did carve out a solid 8-year career with 3 different teams. It's interesting to think how far up this list he would have gone had he been able to control his weight, though it must be said that much of that was related to depression surrounding the loss of several family members and friends during his time in the league. 23, Michael Kidd Gilchrist, 2011. Kid Gilchrist attended powerhouse St. Patrick High School in New Jersey with Kyrie Irving and was widely regarded regarded as a top 3 player in his class. He would head to Kentucky in 2011 and was an instant star. By season's end, he'd become a second-team All-American and win the 2012 NCAA championship alongside Anthony Davis. MKG was then selected with the second pick of the 2012 draft by the Bobcats. He'd have a solid rookie campaign and make the all-rookie second team. However, in his sophomore season, he started to be plagued by injuries. That would continue throughout his career, hampering what could have been a promising run in the NBA. Of course, the big thing he became known for was his questionable jump shot form. Charlotte would bring in legend Mark Price to help fix it, but it never became what you'd call pretty. MKG ended up playing 8 years in Charlotte, but only had 3 seasons that many would consider healthy. During the 2019 season, he was traded to Dallas, but barely played. He'd signed with the Knicks in the next season, but was quickly waived and has never played again. 22, Derrick Favors, 2009. Favors destroyed the high school circuit in Atlanta, Georgia, becoming a consensus top 4 player in his class by the time he graduated. He committed to Georgia Tech in 2009 and quickly proved he could play, dropping 17 points, nearly 8 boards, and 3 blocks in his only ACC tournament appearance. Favors would then go to the 2010 draft and was selected with the 3rd overall pick by the Nets. When he took the court, he became the youngest player to ever play for the Nets at 19 years and 104 days, but he was traded to Utah after his rookie season. He'd spend 9 years with the Jazz, eventually getting all the way up to 16 points a night. However, he consistently had to fight against injuries, and the team was never able to produce a playoff winner. In 2019, he was traded to the Pelicans, where he'd spend 1 year before heading back to Utah and then to OKC. After a year with the Thunder, he tried to hang around with several more teams but was never picked up on a full contract. Most recently, he played for the Windy City Bulls in the G League. 21, Shawn Bradley, 1990. Bradley was already 6'8" by the time he entered high school and grew to be 7'5" before going to BYU for college. During his prep career, Bradley was a dominant force, averaging 25 points, 17 boards, and 9 blocks per game as a high school senior. At BYU, he did more of the same, though it was his shot blocking that made him so valuable, averaging 5.2 a night as a freshman. He would then spend 2 years as a full-time missionary and decided to forego the last 3 years of eligibility and declare for the '93 draft. There, he was selected with the 2nd overall pick by the Philadelphia 76ers. With Philly, Bradley was seen as a project, and the team brought in Moses Malone to help work on his postgame. In his first game, Bradley rejected 8 shots in just 25 minutes, but his other numbers were average. That was the tale for much of his career, as Bradley was an elite rim protector for Philly, the Nets, and the Mavs across his 11-year career. Arguably, his most successful period was when he came off the bench in Dallas to provide the imposing presence needed alongside Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash. He retired in 2005 and has worked with youth and in politics. Sadly, Bradley was hit by a car while on his bicycle in 2021 and was left paralyzed. Number 20, Eddy Curry, 2001. Curry spent his early life hoping to become a gymnast, which might explain his fleet feet. However, in 7th grade, he tried out for the basketball team and everything changed. He was a dominant force in Illinois high school hoops, winning Mr. Basketball in 2001. While he signed a letter of intent at DePaul, he would declare for the draft for the Chicago Bulls, made him the 4th overall pick. With the Bulls, Curry would slowly become a solid scorer, averaging double digits every year after his rookie campaign. However, injuries and off-the-court issues would lead to Chicago shipping him to the Knicks in 2005. His first year in NYC was rough, but when Isaiah Thomas was installed as the coach, he became the offensive focal point and thrived, putting up 19.6 points a night. In 2008, he showed up to training camp out of shape and lost his starting job. He continued to struggle with his weight until he was traded to the Timberwolves in a blockbuster 2011 trade. He never played a game there and signed with the Miami Heat in 2011. By the time he showed up, he'd lost nearly 70 pounds. While he didn't play much, he did win a championship in 2012. He would bop around for a few more leagues before leaving the NBA and playing the CBA. 19, Jahlil Okafor, 2014. If Jahlil Okafor had been born 10 years earlier, he might have been a French star. The Arkansas native was 6'7" by the time he entered 8th grade, and his high school career is one of the most star-studded we've seen from a player out of the Chicago hotbed. He was the consensus #1 player in his class by the end of his senior year, winning National Player of the Year in Illinois Mr. Basketball. Okafor went to Duke for his single season of college ball. There, he was selected as the ACC Player of the Year, National Freshman of the Year, and picked as a consensus first-team All-American while dropping 17 points and 8.5 boards a night. That Duke team would go on to win the national championship. In short, Okafor accomplished nearly everything a player could possibly do before entering the NBA. He was then drafted 3rd overall by the 76ers in the 2015 draft. In his rookie season, Okafor dropped 17.5 a night before getting injured. However, it was clear that his inefficient game might not be a great fit for the quickly changing NBA, and a string of injuries exacerbated the problem. The 76ers also kept drafting young bigs, hurting his chances for playing time, and Okafor was finally traded in 2017. He'd play 4 more years in the league across 4 different teams, but was never able to find a way to turn it around, and has spent the last few years playing overseas and in Mexico. 18, Cole Anthony, 2019. Cole Anthony was born in Portland while his dad Greg was playing for the Trailblazers. As a toddler, his family moved to Manhattan, and he played baseball in elementary school. In 5th grade, he switched to basketball, and the rest is history. Anthony started his high school career in New York, but eventually transferred to Oak Hill in Virginia. There, he teamed with Kofi Cockburn to form one of the best high school teams in the country. He was widely regarded as a top 3 player in his class and signed with North Carolina. With the Tar Heels, Anthony immediately started setting school records, dropping 34 points and 11 boards in his debut game to beat Rashard McCants' school record and RJ Barrett's ACC record for most points in a freshman debut. Unfortunately, a December injury would hold him out for a few months, but Anthony came back on a tear and ended the season averaging 18.5 points a night. Anthony had decided to declare for the 2020 NBA draft, where he was selected 15th overall by the Orlando Magic. Since entering the NBA, Anthony has proved to be a lethal scorer. In his third season, the Magic started to experiment with him coming off the bench, and Anthony's shooting percentages have gone up dramatically. At only 23, Anthony is poised to move further up the list, but has already been incredibly impressive during his young career. 17. Michael Beasley, 2007. It's hard to imagine a player with a smoother game than Michael Beasley. Alongside Kevin Durant, Beasley dominated the AAU scene during high school, playing for 6 different schools during his prep career, and once dropping 64 points and 34 boards in a game as a senior. He'd then head to Kansas State as the #1 player in his class. There, Beasley posted one of the most dominant freshman seasons we've ever seen, averaging 26.2 points and a nation-leading 12.4 boards per game. He was named a consensus first-team All-American and won Big 12 Player of the Year, and Beasley decided to go straight to the NBA after that season and was selected with the 2nd pick in the 2008 draft. Bees averaged 14 points off the bench during his first season in the league, but consistently got in trouble for violating team policy. The next year, he became a full-time starter, taking a small leap in his game, but he was traded to the Timberwolves after the season to make room for Chris Bosh and LeBron James. In his first season with Minnesota, Beasley dropped 19 a night, but that would end up being his last season at full strength. Due to injuries and off-the-court issues, Beasley was never able to live up the hype he had coming out of college. He would carve out an 11-year career playing for 7 different franchises, but never took that step towards stardom. 16. Billy Owens, 1988. In high school, Billy Owens won 4 straight state titles, which eventually led to him playing college ball at Syracuse. He was a stud from the jump, finishing his career as the Big East Player of the Year in his junior season. Owens was selected 3rd overall by the Kings in the 91 draft, but held out of signing a contract and was eventually traded to the Warriors in exchange for Mitch Richmond, breaking up the popular Run TMC trio. As a rookie, he averaged 15 points and 8 boards to make the all-rookie first team. However, he was never able to take that next step towards stardom. Instead, he'd bounce around to several teams, always providing quality minutes when healthy, but never living up to the promise he showcased early in his career. 15. Michael Porter Jr., 2017. MPJ was lucky enough to play under former NBA star Brandon Roy in high school, who helped turn the 6'10 wing into one of the best players in the country. As a senior, he averaged 36 points and almost 14 boards a night, earning a scholarship to Washington. However, when his dad was hired at Missouri, Porter would switch his commitment. Due to injuries, MPJ only played 3 games in college, but decided to jump to the NBA after his freshman season. He was selected with the 14th pick of the 2018 draft by the Nuggets due to those health concerns. In fact, he'd miss his first full season after a back surgery. When MPJ was finally ready to go, he was solid, averaging 9.8 points off the bench and shooting over 40% from 3. The next year, he blossomed into a lethal scorer, dropping 19 points a night as the Nuggets continued to improve around him. However, in 21-22, he had a 3rd back surgery and missed all but 9 games. The next year, Porter got back to the starting lineup and helped the Nuggets win their first championship in franchise history. It's been more of the same this season, and at just 25 years old, there's a good chance he can move up the list. 14. Aaron Gordon, 2013. Gordon comes from a family of athletes. His father played at San Diego State and tried to switch to tight end in the NFL after going undrafted in the NBA. His brother Drew played a few games in the NBA before carving out a long career overseas, and his sister played at Harvard. For his part, Gordon was a dominant high school player in California, winning back-to-back Mr. Basketball awards before heading to the University of Arizona. There, Gordon continued to produce as a high-flying athlete with a nose for rebounds. He earned Pac-12 Freshman of the Year and made all Pac-12 first team in his lone collegiate season. He was drafted 4th overall by the Magic in 2014. Unfortunately, his rookie season was tainted by injuries. However, in year 2, he became a national name by competing in one of the best dunk contests of the modern era. Though he'd lose to Zach LaVine due to somewhat questionable judging, Gordon was now a known commodity. His game would continue to grow in Orlando, becoming a more consistent scorer, though the Magic struggled to win games with him as a focal point. Gordon would also enter the 2020 dunk contest, where he again got second, this time behind Derrick Jones Jr. In 2021, Gordon was traded to the Denver Nuggets, where he'd finally see team success. His offensive role was lessened, but his versatility to guard basically every position was instrumental in the team winning the 2023 NBA title. 13. Harrison Barnes, 2010. Barnes was one of the top players in his class coming out of Iowa, playing alongside Doug McDermott for Ames High School. As a senior, he dropped 27 points, 10 boards, 4 steals, and 4 assists a night. He would head to North Carolina to play college ball, and in his first year, he won Rookie of the Year, and as a sophomore, Barnes made 2nd team All-American. Barnes then entered the 2012 draft and was selected 7th overall by the Warriors. Barnes started almost every game during his rookie season due to his defensive versatility, but was relegated to the 6th-man duties in 2013 after the team acquired Andre Iguodala. However, in 2014, he was inserted back into the starting lineup, and the Warriors would win a title in part due to Barnes' breakout playoff performance. He'd spend one more year with the Warriors before signing with the Mavs. He'd have his best scoring seasons with Dallas, but he was eventually traded in the middle of a game to the Kings in 2019. He's now been in Sacramento for 6 years, starting nearly every game he's been healthy, giving the Kings whatever they need. Number 12, JJ Redick, 2002. Redick was a force in the Virginia high school scene, but he burst onto the national scene at Duke. There, he became one of the best and most hated players in NCAA history. During his time as a Blue Devil, he was a lethal scorer, averaging nearly 27 points a night as a senior. He also picked up multiple Player of the Year awards, though he was unable to win Duke a title. The Magic made him the 11th pick of the 2006 draft, and Redick would prove that it wasn't all college hype. The man could ball. While he never became an all-star level player, Redick carved out a long career due to his ability to put the ball in the bucket from all over the court. His best statistical season came in 2019 when he dropped 18 a night for Philly. Unfortunately, just like in college, he was unable to ever win an NBA ring and retired after the 2021 season. Number 11, Tyreke Tyreke Evans, 2008. Tyreke Evans stuffed box sheets throughout his high school career and was ranked as the 6th best player in his class when he went to the University of Memphis for college ball. There, he transitioned to the point guard position, unlocking a new level to his game. He ran the Memphis offense with intensity and was drafted 4th overall by the Kings in 2009. Out of the gate, Evans was a star, becoming just the 4th rookie in NBA history to average at least 20 points, 5 boards, and 5 assists. The other 3 players, Oscar Robertson, Michael Jordan, and LeBron James. Needless to say, big things were expected for the reigning Rookie of the Year. However, Evans never really made that next step in his game, largely due to injuries and off-the-court problems. He'd play 3 more years for the Kings before being traded to the Pelicans in 2013. Constant knee problems kept him from getting back to the level of play he showed as a rookie consistently. In 2019, he was banned from the NBA for violating the league's drug policy and has never been able to get back to the league. Number 10, J.R. Smith, 2004. During his 5-year high school career, J.R. Smith was a standout 3-star athlete dominating in football, baseball, and basketball. As a senior, he decided to focus solely on basketball and eventually committed to play at North Carolina. However, he would elect to forego college ball and was selected by the Hornets with the 18th pick in the 2004 NBA draft. He was a solid player for the franchise, but fell out of favor with head coach Byron Scott due to, quote, poor work ethic. In 2006, he was traded to the Bulls, but was almost immediately traded again to the Denver Nuggets. In his early days there, he was involved in a fight against the Knicks at Madison Square Garden and was suspended 10 games. After a lackluster shooting performance in the playoffs, many wondered if he'd ever live up to his potential, but the next year he became a spark plug off the bench and finished 2nd in voting for 6th Man of the Year. In 2012, Smith signed with the Knicks and posted career highs in points despite coming off the bench. With the Knicks, Smith finally won 6th Man of the Year, though playoff success continued to avoid him. In 2014, he was traded to the Cavs. There, he quickly became known for one boneheaded play in the finals, but was a solid contributor for a team that won the title in 2016. He would finish his career with the Lakers, where he won another championship while only playing 6 games. After retiring, Smith went to college and played on the men's golf team. Number 9, Zach Randolph, 2000. Z-Bo grew up in Marion, Indiana, where he blossomed into a star player in high school. He would elect to head to Michigan State for college, playing alongside Jason Richardson. Randolph only played for a year, but averaged 11-7 while helping the team to its 3rd straight Final Four. He was selected 19th overall by the Trailblazers in the 2001 draft. While there, he had several off-the-court incidents, including punching teammate Ruben Patterson in 2003. However, by 2005, his game started to round out and he earned the Most Improved Player award. In 2007, he was traded to the Knicks for a package that included Steve Francis. The next year, he was again traded to the Clippers for 39 games before being traded again to the Grizzlies. There, he would turn into the player most remember. With Memphis, he would embrace the Grind City mantra, helping turn the team into a perennial playoff contender and making 2 All-Star games. Unfortunately, they never get over the hump in the West, and Z-Bo would leave in 2017 to join the Kings. As he aged, he dropped out of the rotation and retired in 2019. In 2021, he became the first player to have their number retired by the Memphis Grizzlies. Number 8, Jerry Stackhouse, 1999. Stackhouse was often cited as the next Michael Jordan during his prep career, which makes a ton of sense when you look at the 2 players' game up to that point. Both stood at 6'6", could jump out of the gym, and grew up in North Carolina. Like Jordan, Stack would become a Tar Heel after an outstanding high school career where he'd play alongside Rasheed Wallace and Jeff McInnes. During his sophomore season, he'd lead them to the Final Four and pick up National Player of the Year. He'd then head to the NBA draft where the 76ers made him the 3rd overall pick. In his first year, he led the team in scoring and was named to the All-Rookie team. The next year, the team drafted Allen Iverson, and the duo was electric. However, Stack was traded to Detroit midway through the 97 season and continued to pour in buckets. In 2001, he posted a career high of 29.8 points a night. After 5 years with the Pistons, he was traded to the Wizards for Rip Hamilton, and it was there that his career took a turn for the worse following a devastating knee injury. He would continue to play for 9 more seasons across 5 teams, but mostly came off the bench and was never able to recapture that scoring prowess he'd shown early in his career. Since retiring in 2013, Stackhouse has entered coaching, currently serving as the head coach at Vanderbilt. Number 7, Alonzo Mourning, 1988. As a senior in high school, Zoe averaged 25 points, 15 boards, and an eye-popping 12 blocks per game. He then went to Georgetown to play under John Thompson. In his freshman season, he led the nation in blocks, averaging 5 per game. His overall game improved over the next few years, while his blocks went down because his teammate Dikembe Mutombo took over as the team's leading shot blocker. In his senior season, Zoe won Big East Player of the Year and became a consensus first-team All-American. He was drafted 2nd overall by the Hornets in 92 and was joined by Larry Grandmama Johnson to form one of the most potent duos in the early 90s NBA. Unfortunately, Mourning rejected a contract extension and was traded to the Heat in 95. He'd play there until 2003 when he moved to the Nets for 2 years before coming back to Miami and winning a title in 2006. Zoe retired in 2008 as a 7-time All-Star and 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. Number 6, Dwight Howard, 2004. In high school, Dwight Howard averaged 8 blocks a game in addition to dropping 25 points and 18 boards a night. He'd skip college and go directly to the NBA, where he was the first pick in the 2004 draft. With the Magic, Dwight would grow into one of the most dominant bigs in the league, making 8 All-Star games and winning Defensive Player of the Year for 3 years straight. Widely considered the best big man in the NBA from around 2008 to 2012, Howard led the Magic to the 2009 finals. Unfortunately, the team was never able to get over the hump, and Howard would head to the Lakers in 2012. He was unable to ever fit in alongside Kobe Bryant and struggled to run quality pick and rolls with Steve Nash. Following that year in LA, he'd head to the Rockets and play alongside James Harden. Again, his team could never fully turn the corner, and over the next several years, he'd hop around to several other teams, including 2 more stints with the Lakers, winning a title in 2020 playing alongside alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Howard moved to the Taiwan League in 2022, playing well but still eyeing a return to the NBA. As of 2024, that has yet to manifest, but it is impossible to deny how great Howard was as a defensive anchor in his heyday. Number 5, Chris Webber, 1991. C-Web was one of the best prep prospects in Michigan history, averaging 30 points and 13 boards as a senior before becoming a Wolverine. His college career was marred by scandal due to a poorly called timeout and several recruiting violations, but you can't deny that Webber was dominant alongside the rest of the Fab Five. He was drafted first overall by the Magic in 93, but was immediately traded to the Warriors for Penny Hardaway and future picks. Over a 16-year career, Webber made the All-Star team and All-NBA team 5 times and won Rookie of the Year. Despite never winning a championship or MVP, Webber is widely regarded as one of the 75 best players in NBA history. Number 4, Kevin Durant, 2006. Durant is where we start getting into the top 15 or 20 players to ever lace him up. If you wanted to move him up a spot over the next guy, I wouldn't even get mad. Durant is that great, and this top 4 are some of the best players in NBA history. Durant was destined for the NBA from the jump. He was already 6 foot tall in middle school and grew to 6'7" in high school, where he was widely regarded as the second best player in his class behind Greg Oden. By the time he stepped foot on the Texas campus, Durant had grown to 6'9", and he was a force from day one. He averaged 26 points on 11 boards, winning multiple National Player of the Year awards, became the first freshman to win those awards. He'd head to the NBA after his only collegiate season and was selected second overall by the Supersonics in 2007. From the outset, his scoring was a weapon, and he won Rookie of the Year. Over the next few years, the Sonics would become the Thunder and had Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Serge Ibaka. Durant would start to lead the league in scoring by his 3rd season. The Thunder made the playoffs in 2012 but lost to the Heat. After that year, the Thunder traded away Harden and Durant would continue to grow, winning the MVP in 2014, but OKC never made it back to the finals. Partially due to that, KD left for Golden State in free agency. And you gotta say, the move worked for him as the Warriors won the next 2 titles. He'd spend 1 more year with the Warriors before heading to Brooklyn for 3 years and then the Suns, where he's currently scoring in bunches alongside Devin Booker. At 35, KD probably has a few more years of solid production before he'll shut things down, potentially giving him 1 or 2 more runs at a title before he hangs it up. That said, he's already an absolute Hall of Famer no matter what happens in the future. Number 3, Kevin Garnett, 1995. KG was already NBA ready as a high schooler, and he proved it by entering the draft after a dominant senior season. He was selected 5th overall by the Timberwolves, becoming the first high schooler drafted since 1975. That selection was handsomely rewarded as KG became a 15-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA selection, 12-time All-Defensive selection, 4-time rebounding champion, won the Defensive Player of the Year in 2008, and the MVP in 2004. Of course, that didn't all happen with Minnesota, as he left the team in 2007 to join Paul Pierce and Ray Allen with the Boston Celtics. That team won the championship in 2008, finally giving Garnett the title he craved. And Garnett would play for a few more years and a few more teams before hanging it up in 2016. Number 2, Shaquille O'Neal, 1989. Shaq doesn't really need a breakdown. Despite not having the best practice habits and not caring too much about conditioning, Shaq is one of the most dominant players in NBA history. Across 6 teams, he won 4 titles, 3 Finals MVPs, and 1 regular season MVP, in addition to making 15 All-Star appearances and 8 All-NBA first-team selections. He was elected to the Hall of Fame in 2016 and was named to the NBA 75th anniversary team in 2021. The only thing keeping him from the top spot is the fact that the number 1 player has a legitimate claim for the best player of all time. Number 1, LeBron James, 2003. Look, you know who LeBron is, let's not kid ourselves. He's one of 2 players most would consider the GOAT and easily the best player on this list.